countrymen and countrywomen.
President Museveni's 2 hours and 33 minutes televised national address last Saturday appeared intently to warn anyone inclined to take part in the demonstrations against Parliament, whose organizers he labeled foreign-backed agents.
But now, to have a culture like I see in other parts of the world, where they are damaging property, they are here in our culture here, you can't trample in my garden. You can't come and trample in my garden, or your cows cannot. That's how you hear problems in Karamoja, Teso, because the Karamoja bring cows and they trample people's crops. Then there is trouble there. So we are wealth creators. We have defended the direction of Uganda's revolutionary path in the past, and we shall defend it even more now.
Since the 2020 election campaigns, the president, who according to the book titled Combatants, a Memoir of the Bush War and Press in Uganda, authored by William Pike, the former editor-in-chief of New Vision, occasionally sought support from the West to dislodge the Obote government, has variously accused his rivals, especially Bobi Wine, of being an agent of the neo-colonialists.
Capitalist mode of life.
But what the president seldom mentions and what the same neo-colonial powers, the US, UK and European Union, and by extension through the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, are huge funders of Uganda's development, particularly budget support, infrastructure, health, water and sanitation, among others. To stay relevant, the Kampala regime in turn does security legwork in the region, most significantly fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia and playing its diplomatic power favorably at international fora. The West is now the problem, it appears, according to Museveni, who at his inauguration in 1986 said Africa's problem is leaders who overstay in power. It also appears that it is only right for the West to deal with government and wrong for it to deal with another party in Uganda. While commissioning Speaker of Parliament Anita Among's teaching hospital on March 23rd, President Museveni labelled the activists who lifted lead on the plundering in Parliament as traitors working for wrong foreigners.
How can you talk so much on the social media about Anita Among? Anita Among, how about the ones who are working for foreigners? We are going to expose those traitors.
The last weekend address came on the heels of the march to Parliament that has been stained by the bad optics of embezzlement amid poor service delivery and inelastic poverty and inequality gripping the country. The bad optics took a turn in April with the UK slapping sanctions on Speaker of Parliament Anita Among and two former Karamoja ministers, Mary Goreti Chitutu and Agnes Nandutu, for their involvement in the Mabati scandal. Speaker Among doubled down, describing the sanctions as politically motivated over her stance on homosexuality. Then, as was anticipated, the US also tightened the noose around the Speaker, her husband, Moses Magogo. In various speeches, President Museveni cautiously scattered commenting on the sanctions altogether, but he previously commended Ms. Among and MPs for doing their work. The planned demonstrations 2 days after the president's speech, demanding among others cutting the size of parliament, with 529 elected MPs and 577 technical staff, and the resignation of the Speaker Among, alongside 4 backbench parliamentary commissioners and any legislator enmeshed in a corruption scandal.
We are fighting corruption and you guys...
More than 100 demonstrators were arrested in the demonstrations on Tuesday and Thursday. In a post on the microblogging site X on Thursday, the president re-echoed his charge that the anti-corruption demonstrations had 2 bad elements. Element number 1 was funding from foreign sources that are always meddling in the internal affairs of Africa. And secondly, was that some of the authors and participants of the demonstrations were planning very bad things against the people of Uganda. Those very bad things will come out in court when those arrested are being tried. During the last election campaigns that were marred by unprecedented levels of violence, the government public relations machinery variously justified the gangster-style kidnap of particularly National Unity Platform supporters in broad light, accused of, among others, planning to ban the city.
You are arresting journalists.
Scores of NUP supporters were picked up by security organs and held incommunicado for months. 4 years later, 28 NUP supporters are battling charges before the General Court-Martial in defiance of the Constitutional Court ruling that the military court has no powers to try civilians. While campaigning in December 2020, candidate Museveni claimed that some NUP supporters wanted to burn the city down, but security stopped it immediately. He said of the spontaneous November 2020 protests in which at least 54 people, majority of whom had nothing to do with the protests, were killed by trigger-happy security personnel.
Era bagezako Kampala bamanyi kyabatuukako. Tokkirizibwa wadde okunkanga obukanzi. Oba okunewerera tosobola kunewerera.
In his post on X last Thursday, the president said, "If it was a patriotic, anti-corruption, peaceful demonstration coordinated with the police, I would have been the first to join." Inexplicably, 5 years ago on December 3rd, Kampala came to a standstill for hours as President Museveni, as the chief worker, led hundreds of people to march against corruption and highlight gains made in combating the vice.
I monitor your groups. People tell me, the ones who bribe your people, they come and tell me. Only that I don't have enough evidence to arrest you, but I know many of you who are corrupt. So if you see that I have not arrested you, don't think that you are safe.
The anti-corruption walk was, of course, met with widespread cynicism, as for long spells graft has come to be known as the jet fuel of the clientele patronage system. One does not require to conduct a lifestyle audit to prove how corrupt officials have amassed ill-gotten wealth. A year later, billions of shillings allocated to the COVID-19 relief were pillaged in procurement wheeler dealing, and for which several audits implicated several officials, but none has ever been brought to book. The following year, in December 2021, during commemoration of the Anti-Corruption Week, President Museveni cautioned the then newly Inspector General of Government Betty Kamya to go slow on enforcing a lifestyle audit.
Now, the lifestyle audit is good, but be careful, because we are still lucky that our corrupt people are corrupt here. They steal the money, they put it there. You see a 5-star hotel from corruption. Now, if you only concentrate on the lifestyle, then they will take the money out. And you'll have no evidence here. It will be another struggle.
During his State of Nation and budget speeches respectively last month, Museveni seemingly reading the mood of the public fatigued by scandals of public officials chasing the gravy train and the mounting public discord over an incompetent government next door in Kenya, doubled down on grabbing the corruption bull by the horns. 10 days after the June 13th presidential budget speech and after 3 MPs, Sisi Namuju, Paul Akamba and Yusuf Mutembuli, had been arrested and charged on allegations of budgetary fraud, Speaker Mong, while appearing at a public event in Lwengo district, appeared to endorse the criminal actions of her colleagues.
And the president has heard your cries, where you said that when your child misbehaves, you beat and say go back and do something good.
Omwana bw'aba akusobezza omukangavvulamu katonotono n'omugamba genda otereeze okole ebintu ebirungi.
And you're better off having a child, even if she goes and eats something, so long as she brings back home. Honorable members.
The comments from the country's third most important citizen in the national order of precedence drew public ire against the backdrop of glaring revelations of the effects of corruption on service delivery. An estimated 9.7 trillion shillings, according to the IGG, is plundered every year. The electorate continues to die as a result of negligible diseases, pupils take classes under trees, and mothers give birth by the roadside, creating one of the most uneven societies. By contrast, Internal Affairs Minister Kahinda Otafire, a veteran of the guerrilla war that brought President Museveni to power, told graduating students of Kampala International University on July 13th to stand against the state of affairs.
Don't allow people to tell you we are stealing on your behalf. Leaders don't steal. We don't elect leaders to steal. Nobody, what we are told, should glorify corruption. Oh, that this person stole and shared with you. No. You still pay and you share with us one, and then you say you fell on our behalf. Did we send you to steal? If you are in leadership, you have to be upright.
As a matter of fact, endemic corruption and abuse of office and other ills forced the then 39-year-old Museveni and 26 others to pick up arms to fight a costly war in the Luwero Triangle. But history has an uncanny way of repeating itself. After nearly 4 decades in power, President Museveni finds himself in a sport of bother induced by the same ills, especially corruption and abuse of office that bogged down his predecessors, Obote and Amin, and whom he has on numerous occasions used offensive words to describe. For Museveni, the uncoordinated proclamations and flip-flopping on fighting graft have particularly cast doubt on the government's commitment to reining in the vice. Other times, the president and his technocrats have struck a bewildered tone of also not having solutions. At the celebration of his 38-year leadership at Kololo on July 5th, the president vowed to ensure accountability.
The point of corruption. We are going to defeat this corruption. Tugenda kuwangula corruption. The present problem of corruption is because of the accounting officers. The permanent secretary, the chief administrative officer in a district, the town clerk.
While opening an introspection retreat of the executive at the National Leadership Institute in Chankwanzi district 3 days later, he doubled down on the same.
The corruption we are facing now has got 2 dimensions. One dimension is the stealing of government money, taking bribes from the public to provide government services, misusing the procurement procedures to cheat the state, and corruptly handling personnel issues, e.g. nepotism, and selling government jobs.
Yet, a fortnight later, when he took to the stage last weekend, he labelled the March to Parliament campaigners against corruption as foreign-backed agents.
My question is, what right then do you have to seek to generate chaotic behavior? What right do you have? We are busy producing wealth. You are getting cheap food. Other people in the other parts of the world are starving. They are crying for hunger. And you here, you want to disturb us. You are playing with fire.
Museveni, who since the COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020 and 2021 has viewed himself as the conductor or the orchestra, crafting a narrative of hope through periodic television addresses, last weekend dwelt on 5 issues, mainly the environment, especially the wetlands, wealth creation, job creation, regional integration, and parasitism, whether intended or otherwise.
Told you before of the Runyankore proverb. It says in Runyankore, and minyingi itukuruzo shera. The English equivalent would be, too many tongues spoil the broth. Similarly, so many wrong analyses of issues confuse some of our people and disable them from helping themselves and also helping their country.
He called his press team to display satellite images of encroachment on Mabira forest and swamp destruction. Inexplicably, 18 years ago, the president himself had authorized the giveaway of 7,279 hectares of the Mabira forest for large-scale sugarcane growing to Skol, which decision contravened Article 237, Clause 2 of the Constitution and Section 44, Clause 1 of the Land Act. The proposed Mabira giveaway sparked deadly protests in 2007, during which Indian nationals were targeted, while Ugandans living in India were also targeted in reprisal attacks. Regarding wetlands, the president blamed both the environment watchdog, NEMA, and the encroachers, but he still missed the point.
So unfair that a small number of wetland encroachers ruin the opportunities of the millions that could irrigate on the dry land.
For long spells, concerns have abounded about NEMA's sleeping on duty, including failure to enforce the law and fraudulent issuance of certificates in wetland areas. Last month, NEMA intensified eviction of encroachers from wetlands, but the operations have conspicuously targeted impoverished communities. Across the country, there are numerous examples of the politically connected constructing plush homes, hotels or industries in swamps or engaging in opaque sand mining on the shores of Lake Victoria, but often they get away with the crime. The president further delved into his favorite pet subject of wealth creation, which the government has attempted in numerous schemes, from Bonabagagawale, Prosperity for All, Plan for the Modernization of Agriculture, Entandikwa, National Agriculture Advisory Services, Operation Wealth Creation, Northern Uganda Social Action Fund, Youth Livelihood Ventures, Emyoga, to now Parish Development Model, PDM. However, the junior finance minister, Henry Museveni, was quoted in the Daily Monitor early this week, admitting that they were struggling to find tangible benefits on the ground. Over the last 2 decades, Uganda has registered rapid growth and development, attributed to, among others, massive investment in infrastructure and improved human capital index, while at the same time, an unacceptably high proportion of Ugandans continued to suffer from severe and multidimensional deprivation. A 2016 World Bank Poverty Assessment report for the period of 2006 to 2013 detailed that the proportion of the Uganda population living beneath the national poverty line declined from 31.1% in 2006 to 19.7% in 2013. But according to the bank, poverty is much more than the mere lack of money. It is about deprivation in other important areas of well-being, such as education, health, water and housing, areas where the government allocates huge sums of money annually, but it is embezzled by officials. As the president concluded his address, he called for the drone footage of lush banana plantations in Isinjiro district. Banana production in Uganda is driven mainly by household consumption of 70% rather than commercial goals out of annual production of over 6 million tons. During the release of crop and animal census data in March, the Ministry of Agriculture indicated that banana was among the priority crops for agro-industrialization alongside coffee, cocoa, cassava, beans, millet, sorghum, groundnuts and edible oil seeds. However, a tour of several banana growing belts reveals otherwise, with most farmers being ripped off by middlemen, which has remained a long-standing concern. This is according to the Ministry of Agriculture, compounded by farmers' lack of access to affordable credit and financial services, which hampers their ability to invest in quality agro-inputs, water for production, machinery and modern technology leads, which leads to low productivity and inadequate transportation networks, poor harvest losses and unreliable energy supply, posing significant challenges to agriculture industrialization. In 2015, the president, concerned that 40% of banana grown was being wasted, established the Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development, PBID, to increase the value of bananas to maximize profits, but over the years, it has come under value for money scrutiny. The PBID bears parallels with the Sorority Fruits Limited, also referenced in the presidential address commissioned in April 2019 with the objective of providing a market for locally grown mangoes and oranges, but has remained a white elephant while gouging billions of shillings. The presidential addresses provide an opportunity for a country to hear from their chief political executive about the government's political and socio-economic direction. However, listening into the rosy economic figures while the situation on ground offers another perspective leaves many wondering if the government is not out of touch with reality.